At 8:12 in the morning, my phone began to vibrate as if it had something urgent to confess. I was not at the airport. Graham and Lydia were standing at the Delta counter inside Savannah Hilton Head International. Boarding passes in hand, children bundled in new winter coats. Ski gloves clipped to sleeves. I know this because I could hear it in the background of the first call, the rolling wheels of suitcases, a child asking for juice. The brittle patience in Lydia's voice as she spoke to an airline agent. I let the call go to voicemail. Steam rose from the kettle on my stove. The kitchen window was cracked open just enough for the December air to slip in. The brass skeleton key hanging beside it tapped lightly against the wall in the draft. A small, metallic sound that seemed louder than usual. 2 nights earlier, Lydia had written in the family group chat, "Bright and reasonable. Since you're not skiing, it makes sense for you to stay at the lodge with the kids. 8 to 4 each day. If you won't babysit all week, don't bother coming." The message included a schedule, my name typed neatly beside the word childcare. I had paid $14,000 for the Aspen Lodge, timber beams, stone fireplace, a chef's kitchen large enough for all of us. I had booked the flights. Chosen business class so the children would not be restless. Made dinner reservations weeks in advance. I had imagined snow falling outside wide windows while we passed plates across a long table. Instead, I had been assigned a shift. The phone vibrated again. Graham this time, then Lydia. "My name is Rosalind Mercer Hale, 71 years old." I picked up my cup and watched the steam thin into the air. After Lydia's message, I had answered once. "I'm coming to rest, not to work." The tone shifted quickly. "If you won't babysit all week, don't bother coming." So I wrote my final line before leaving the chat. "I chose to stay home. I hope you enjoy the airport floor." The key tapped against the wall again. When I finally answered, I heard the strain in Graham's breathing before he spoke. "Mom, what did you do?" Behind him, the airline agent's voice cut through the noise. Steady and polite. "Ma'am, these tickets were canceled 2 days ago. When Henry died, people brought casseroles and folded chairs into my living room. After the last dish was washed and the condolences thinned out, the house grew very quiet. Rosalind, you'll be fine," my sister had said at the funeral reception. "You always land on your feet." I did not tell her I had been buying buildings on River Street since 1986, back when people said downtown Savannah was finished. I did not tell her I preferred paperwork to pity. Henry had been a maritime attorney. I handled property. Between us, we learned to read tides and contracts the same way carefully. "Mom, you always think 3 steps ahead." Graham once told me when he was younger, half admiring, half resentful. 15 years ago, when he married Lydia, I purchased the 3-bedroom house on Whitfield Square through Hale Coastal Holdings, clean warranty deed, recorded properly. Book and page stamped in red at the Chatham County Courthouse. "Are you sure about this?" Henry had asked then. "Mixing family and property." "I'm not mixing," I said. "I'm structuring." Graham and Lydia moved in under a simple lease. Reduced rent. No annual increases. "Thank you, Mom." Graham said that first year, standing in the doorway with a paint roller in his hand. "This gives us breathing room." It did. When the school tuition came up short one spring, Lydia called. "It's just a temporary gap," she said. "Family helps family." Right, I wired the amount. When they wanted a beach house in Tybee for Christmas, I covered the deposit. "You make everything easy." Lydia told me once over scallops at dinner, "We're lucky." But when I declined to watch the children because I had a closing downtown, Lydia smiled thinly. "Oh, of course. We'll manage." They posted photographs from that weekend. I was not in them. The invitations always came attached to a need. The affection softened when I said no. When does helping your children turn into underwriting their lifestyle? The group chat was titled Aspen Christmas. Lydia began with a smile I could almost hear through the screen. "Since you're not skiing, It makes sense for you to stay with the kids during the day. 8 to 4 should work. I made a schedule so everyone's clear. A screenshot followed. Columns, names, my name beside childcare. I stared at it long enough for the screen to dim. I'm coming to rest. Not to work. I typed. 3 dots appeared immediately. Oh, come on, Lydia replied. It's family. We all pitch in. Graham joined in. Nannies in Aspen are $40 an hour. Mom, that adds up fast. We can't afford that on top of lift tickets. I paid for the lodge. I wrote, and the flights. We know, and we're grateful. Lydia answered, but this isn't about money. It's about being involved. With respect, I typed. Watching 3 children 8 hours a day isn't involvement. It's a job. The tone shifted then. The softness drained away. If you're not going to help, Lydia wrote, maybe it's better if you don't come. We don't need tension on Christmas. The word tension sat there like a warning. Before I could respond, a private message arrived from Graham. Mom, you don't really do much anyway. This would make you part of it. I read it twice. Then once more, slowly, my thumb hovered over the keyboard. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. I could see him at 8 years old in my mind, standing on a chair to reach the cookie jar, looking back at me for permission. I don't really do much. I typed back, then erased it. In the group chat, Lydia added one more line. If you won't babysit all week, don't bother coming. There it was. Clean. Final. I set the phone face down on the table. The betrayal wasn't the schedule. It wasn't the 8 to 4. It was the way my presence had been reduced to a shift. I didn't answer the group chat again. Instead, I opened my laptop. Grand Timber Lodge confirmation email. Check-in Friday at 4 in the afternoon. Cancellation policy full refund within 48 hours. After that, partial. The clock in the corner of my screen read 9:43 at night. I logged into my Delta account next. Business class fares fully refundable. Confirmation numbers lined up neatly beside each passenger's name. Graham, Lydia. The children. My finger hovered over the trackpad. They said, don't come. I murmured into the empty kitchen. No one argued with me. No one tried to negotiate. The house didn't protest. The decision felt administrative, not dramatic. A pop-up appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel? I clicked confirm. My finger hovered longer than it needed to. I imagined the children running through snow they had never seen before. I almost reached for my phone to call Graham and say, let's talk about this. For a moment, I wanted him to give me an excuse to undo everything. The screen asked again. Are you sure I realized I wasn't canceling a trip? I was canceling an expectation. Refund of $14,000 pending. 5 to 7 business days, then the flights. One by one, the reservations disappeared from my account. Each cancellation email arrived with the same neutral tone. Thank you for choosing Delta. Your itinerary has been updated. Updated. My phone buzzed on the table. Lydia. I let it ring. It buzzed again. Graham. I opened the group chat once more and typed slowly. I chose to stay home. I hope you enjoy the airport floor. I left the chat before the typing bubbles could form. There was no surge of anger, no shaking hands, just a stillness settling in my chest like something properly aligned. For years, I had assumed love meant absorbing discomfort quietly. That night, I tested a different definition. The second I answered, the noise hit me first. Mom, what did you do? Graham's voice was tight, forced low. Behind him, I heard an overhead announcement, a child whining, Lydia's sharper tone cutting through everything. We're at the counter, Lydia snapped, her voice close to the phone now. They're saying the tickets were canceled. All of them. Yes, I said. Yes, she repeated, disbelief turning brittle. Rosalind, this is not funny. The kids are standing here with their backpacks. People are staring. I informed you I wasn't coming. That doesn't mean you cancel the entire trip, Graham said. You paid for it. You told me not to come if I wouldn't babysit. That was frustration. Lydia said quickly. Family says things in frustration. And I responded in clarity. A child's voice broke in. Daddy, are we still going? Graham covered the phone. I heard him whisper, just a second. When he came back, his voice had changed. You ruined Christmas, Mom, he said, lowering his voice. You don't like when you're not the one deciding. The words landed heavier than I expected. My fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. No, I said evenly. I declined employment. Lydia made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a gasp. Employment, they're your grandchildren. And I love them, I replied. But I'm not scheduled labor, you're punishing us. She shot back. Over one message. I removed myself from an arrangement I didn't agree to. An airline agent's voice drifted into the call. Sir, if you'd like to rebook. I can check availability. Rebook it? Lydia demanded. Mom, just fix it. Put it back. The lodge has been refunded, I said. The flights as well. There was a long pause. I didn't think you'd actually do it, Graham muttered finally. Not angry now. Not loud. Just stunned. I could almost see him there at gate C14, shoulders tight. Children tugging at his coat. Lydia's face flushed with humiliation. That's the problem. I answered. Silence followed, thick and public. After the call ended, I remained standing at the counter. My reflection in the dark microwave door looked smaller than I felt. I expected triumph. Instead, there was only quiet. I sat down and folded my hands in my lap the way I used to during long church services, waiting for the shaking to stop. For a moment, I saw him at 6 years old, asleep in the back seat after Christmas Eve service. His small hand still curled around my coat sleeve. I had carried him inside without waking him. I had never imagined one day I would have to put him down on purpose. I had reviewed the Whitfield Square lease 6 months earlier when property taxes rose again. Insurance premiums had followed. I remember thinking I would revisit the rent after the new year. Aspen simply moved the calendar forward. The property file for Whitfield Square was already organized under Hale Coastal Holdings, lease agreement signed 15 years ago, fixed rate, no automatic annual increases. I had written it myself with my attorney. Clean and simple. I remember thinking then that family should never feel like tenants. I drafted a new notice, subject lease adjustment, effective next quarter. I attached a current market analysis from a Savannah rental database. 3 comparable homes within half a mile, each listed for nearly double what Graham and Lydia were paying. I kept my language clinical. This is not a termination of tenancy. This is an adjustment to fair market value beginning in 90 days. I pressed send. Graham called before the email finished syncing across devices. You're raising the rent. His voice wasn't angry yet. It was stunned. I'm aligning it with the market. Mom, that's almost twice what we pay. It's still competitive for the historic district. You've never done this before. I've never needed to. A pause. So this is about Aspen. He said carefully, this is about structure. From the background I heard Lydia whisper, tell her she's overreacting. Graham repeated it, softer. You're overreacting. No, I said. I'm clarifying terms. We counted on that rate. You counted on it never changing. That's what family does. He insisted. We help each other. I have helped you for 15 years. Silence. You're not evicting us, he asked finally. No, but you're making it harder. I'm making it real. The house on Whitfield Square was never a gift. It was a bridge. Bridges are meant to be crossed, not lived on forever. Financial independence doesn't arrive through comfort. Sometimes it arrives through revision. I didn't hear about the spa from Lydia. I heard about it from Marjorie, who manages the front desk. Rosalind, she said gently, when I stopped by to drop off paperwork for one of my tenants upstairs. Your daughter-in-law came in yesterday. I waited. She assumed the usual package was still active. When we ran the card on file, it declined. I removed the authorization. I said. Marjorie nodded. She seemed surprised. I could imagine the scene clearly. Lydia at the counter, sunglasses still on her head. There must be a mistake, she would have said, polite at first. It's under Hale. I'm sorry, ma'am. The receptionist would reply, that account was closed. I come here every month. Yes, ma'am. And the balance you'll need to settle today's visit before booking again. A pause, a calculation, a choice. Lydia paid. She always preferred image over confrontation. 2 days later, Graham called. The school reached out. He said, we're behind on tuition. How far behind? 2 months. Did you expect me to cover it? He exhaled slowly. That's not what I'm saying, but that's what you thought. Silence again. We just assumed things would smooth out, he said. Smoothing out requires adjustment, I replied. Not assumption. That evening, I drove past Whitfield Square on my way home. The porch light was on. The curtains were drawn. Illusion doesn't shatter in a single blow. It thins until light passes through it. Graham came alone. He stood in my doorway on Lafayette Square with his hands in his coat pockets, shoulders slightly hunched the way they were when he was a boy, caught in something he didn't know how to fix. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. We sat at the dining table. No raised voices, no accusations thrown like glass. I didn't think it would go this far, he began. It went exactly as far as it was headed. I replied. He rubbed his hands together slowly. We counted on you. I know. We always knew if things got tight, you'd step in, and that was comfortable for you. It wasn't about comfort. His jaw tightened. It was about stability. For whom? For all of us. I watched him search for language that didn't accuse me. I didn't defend you, he said finally, because it would have caused a fight at home. You let her assign me a job, I said. She was stressed. So you stayed silent. I thought you'd say yes. When did I become someone you expected instead of someone you respected? I asked. He didn't answer. He used to wait outside my office after school, sitting on a stack of closing files with his homework in his lap. Back then, I was the safest place he knew. I wondered when I had become simply the safest solution. That silence was older than Aspen. The words hung there, plain, unvarnished. That's the problem. I answered quietly. He looked at the skeleton key hanging near the window. You've always fixed things, he said. I'm not a repair service. He swallowed. It wasn't supposed to feel like this. What did you think it would feel like? A conversation, not a collapse. It wasn't the cancellation that broke something. I said, it was the assumption. He leaned back in his chair, eyes unfocused. I didn't realize how much we depended on you. Dependence isn't love, I replied. Silence settled between us. Not sharp, not explosive, just heavy. He stood after a moment. We'll figure it out. I hope you do. He paused at the door. You could have just told me. I have been telling you for years. I met with Thomas Avery on a Thursday morning. He has handled my filings for years. The kind of attorney who reads every clause twice before nodding. You're certain you want this structured as irrevocable, he asked, sliding the draft across his desk. Yes. That means you cannot access it later. I understand. He adjusted his glasses. Beneficiaries. My 3 grandchildren. Distribution age 25. He looked up at that. And the parents excluded. He didn't react. Just made a small note in the margin. The amount $14,000, I said. The Aspen refund. He nodded once. We'll title it under the Hale Family Educational Trust. Funds restricted for tuition, housing, or business capital. That's appropriate. I signed my name slowly. The ink settled into the paper without hesitation. When Graham called that evening, his voice was steadier than before. "We're selling the second car," he said. "Lydia's picking up part-time work." "That's good. We'll manage." "I believe you will." He hesitated. "You don't have to keep proving a point." "This isn't a point," I replied. "It's structure." "What does that mean?" "It means I won't fund your choices, but I will protect their future." He was quiet for a long moment. "You still love them," he said. "I do. And thus I love you," I answered. "But love isn't a bailout." The church bells began before sunrise. I was already awake. Savannah in December doesn't shout its winter, it settles into it. The air was cool enough to sting my lungs when I stepped onto the balcony overlooking Lafayette Square. The skeleton key rested in my palm. Warm from where it had hung by the window all these years, my phone buzzed once. A message from Graham. "We'll handle it. No apology, no accusation, no request." I read it twice. I typed back slowly. "I believe you will." A minute later, another message appeared. "Mom, we're figuring things out. It's not easy." "It isn't supposed to be," I replied. "That's how it becomes yours." There was no answer after that. I leaned against the railing and watched a couple walk their dog across the square. For the first time in years. No one was waiting for me to solve something before noon, Henry used to say. "Rosalind, you can buy leverage. You can't buy loyalty." He was right. You can buy vacations. You can buy houses. You can buy time, but you cannot buy respect. And if you keep paying for it, you teach people it's for sale. I used to believe love meant saying yes quickly. It turns out love also means choosing when not to. Some boundaries are not walls. They are doors you close so something inside you can finally rest. Peace costs something. In my case, it cost $14,000 and a few uncomfortable silences. I paid it, and for the first time in a long while, I slept without waiting for my phone to ring. If you've ever had to choose between being needed and being respected, share your story. Sometimes the boundary you draw is the beginning of the relationship you deserve.